Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at an Italian model of 1891 bayonet. I think we've got quite an interesting video today, so enjoy. So this was made to fit the 6.5mm model of 1891 1-litre Carcano rifle. It'll also fit most of the Italian carbines. However, it will not fit all Italian rifles, so it won't fit to a model of 1891 cavalry carbine. It won't fit the second model, being the TS carbine, which is kind of like their specialty troop carbine. And the bayonet for that one is very similar to this, except instead of having a vertical mortise, it has a horizontal going sideways and a different locking mechanism with a button at the back instead of on the side. They're a lot more difficult to track down, and if you get one, they usually go for a bit more of a premium. I don't have one to show you, but I'll try to track one down. This also won't fit the model of 1938 short rifle. They take a different bayonet. Again, I don't have an example of that bayonet. I'm pretty sure that's the M38 folding bayonet. They go for a fair bit if you have one that still folds, but most of them are fixed in place. And they still go for a bit more than these, but as I said, I don't have one of those. So when I eventually get my hands on one, I'll make a video, because I think they're pretty cool. So these are all made in Italy, obviously. This one was made by Signotti. There's a number of different scabbards that were made to go with these. So usually you find a leather scabbard with brass fittings. Obviously this is a steel scabbard. The leather scabbard, when you do come across it though, it'll have a brass chape at the end, a brass piece at the top here with a brass hanger. Generally, the majority of the ones you come across, the leather down the bottom wears from bending, and the brass chape at the bottom is actually snapped off. It's quite difficult to find one that's still in good condition with the chape still attached. That's just my observation. And then of the steel scabbards, there's two kinds. There's the ribbed kind, so we have the ribs on both the top and bottom. You can also find these with smooth, so no ribs. And they were generally made at the same factories as the bayonets, from what I can tell. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me. So, bit of history. This is where it gets really, really interesting. So, Italian bayonets are a bit of a puzzle to me because technologically, at the end of the 19th century, they were miles ahead of everyone else, but their tactics were way behind. So, I'll explain that. Prior to the Carcano, they were using the Vetterli rifle, which used a very, very similar bayonet to what we have here, with really three differences. So the bayonet itself was much, much longer. The guard had a hooked quillin with the ball at the end. And the third difference isn't too much of an issue. It just had a different locking mechanism. It had a leaf spring instead of a standard push button with an internal spring here. But that's fine. The other 2 points are quite interesting. So in the 19th century, they addressed that hook quillins were obsolete. They get tangled in equipment, they get tangled in wire, they get tangled in everything, and they're not worth having, so they removed them years and years before everyone else thought to. And the same with the length of their bayonets. They shortened them years and years before anyone else did. I mean, England, France, Germany, America, everyone was still using long bayonets, and the Italians were some of the first to really shorten them down, which was quite interesting. Then when this model of bayonet was designed, actually sorry, the Vetterli, a lot of them were modified where they'd cut the hook quillin off and shorten the blade. And after they'd been modified, they ended up looking something like this. So generally they'll look like this, except they'll have a fuller that goes to the tip of the blade. They will have a cross guard very similar to this, except it won't have the ball in the end, because the ball would have been at the end of the hook quillin, and that's been cut and ground off. And of course they'll have the leaf spring push button or retention spring, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, when they designed these in 1891, they essentially designed it in the same pattern as what they had modified them to, and they look very, very similar. So I'll pull it out. Now, this is a surprisingly well-made blade. This is a lot nicer than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting it to be a bit crap. You think Italian weapons, and the mind does think crap. You think of their artillery that didn't work in North Africa. You think of the Breda light machine gun, which was absolute shit. You just assume that you're going to get rubbish, and this is probably one of the nicest bayonets I've come across. Like, the blade is very, very modern. It feels like it was machined, 10, 20 years ago. It's got very, very crisp machining edges, a very, very nice fuller. The metal is very, very hard, very, very light. This feels like a blade that you would buy today, not something that's, potentially 130 odd years old. And then, of course, you move down to the cross-guard and handle, and it ages considerably. It looks, obviously the correct vintage. But the blade just feels absolutely fantastic. The really dark blue. You know what? I might get into the construction while I'm at it. So starting with the blade, decent length, ends in a spear point, as you can see. Got a little false edge going about that far. It's actually got a bit of an edge to it. I don't think this one's been sharpened since the factory, but it's not terrible. It's better than most bayonets. The fuller is square, and looks very Hungarian, or even like the L1A3 British bayonets, or their number 9s, or even the number 5 jungle carbides. Very, very thin blade, very thin fullers, or very shallow fullers on both sides of the blade. But yeah, I'm absolutely in love with this blade. I didn't think I would be. I thought this video would be a chore, but it's an absolute delight. Moving down from the blade, we've got the crossguard. So it's pretty self-explanatory, just muzzle ring, offset from the blade a little bit, and got a little ball at the tip. And then just 2 wooden grips retained by screws. Screws or rivets? Rivets. And then just nice deep mortise, push button, pommel. Nothing too flash, nothing too revolutionary. It's just amazing that the blade is so far ahead of its time. Now, when I said they were a little bit of a mystery to me, is in the First World War, they didn't embrace technology. So they had this view, the Italians had a view in the First World War that the spirit of the soldier to run through no man's land and get to the other side would beat modern technology. And that was embodied by the bayonet charge. So citizen soldiers with very, very poor or no training were told to fix bayonets and not take a knee, not go to ground, but to sprint straight through no man's land and keep the momentum going. If the less time they spend in the killing zone, the better. It was seen that it was a very aggressive tactic, and it did work from time to time. It was catastrophic at other times, but I just find it a bit puzzling that they had so much good sense when it came to developing a bayonet and so little sense when it came to employing it. That's why Italian bayonets are a bit of a puzzle to me. But that was in the First World War. I don't know how they were used in the Second World War. I haven't found too many accounts. I don't think they were using bayonets too much in the Second World War. That being said, though, the quality of some of their soldiers in the Second World War was a bit lacking, and that's not the fault of the soldier or the organisation. That comes down to Mussolini trying to rebuild the Roman Empire. I think he had an ambition of 8 million soldiers in a short period of time, and when you do that, you're never going to have great quality. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. I'll jump into the scabbard. So, as you can see, steel construction, got the 3 ribs either side, ball finale at the end. Very crude, very poorly made, lots of tool and machine marks all over it, very, very poor finish. Got the standard stud that you find on pretty much all of the Carcano scabbards. So as you can see, just that profile there. It'll be brass on the leather ones, and obviously the other steel scabbards are made a bit nicer. They've got a nice finish, whether these ribbed ones are just shit. But I prefer one of these to the leather ones, which fall apart. Now, in terms of markings, this is a World War II version, so I can only show you the markings on this. I haven't had too much luck deciphering what markings mean. But here on the crossguard, we have the manufacturer's name and the date of manufacture. See if we can get that to focus a bit better. It's not the best marking. This one's worn away a bit at the top. But what it says is it's manufactured by C. Nutti in 1942. You can make that out. Then on the reverse, we have a serial number. Now, serial numbers usually have a letter or 2 letters or even 3 letters followed by some numbers. And they actually match the bayonet to the rifle. So if you have a full serial number, you can track it down to the type of rifle it was issued to, and even when that rifle was issued. That's not the case with this one, because that serial number's been damaged or ground or scraped deliberately or accidentally, I don't know. So I'm not going to be able to determine where this bayonet would have been, or what this bayonet would have been issued to, which is a shame. They're the markings I've been able to decipher. There are a few more. So there's a few more here on the tang. Focus, please. Focus, please. Come on. So you might have to take my word for it, but we've got the letter F just here, and then a circular symbol that I can't really decipher down there. I haven't found out what they mean. If you know, comment below. I'd love to know, and I'll chuck it in the description. Now, I've seen a lot of the other ones, they have the manufacturer's markings on the ricasso. That's pretty typical. And a lot of the earlier ones, pre-World War II, don't have the date of manufacture on them. That appears to be something they've only introduced in World War II. So if you want to be able to date your bayonet, you need to use the serial number to find out what rifle it was issued to, and using the serial number, figure out what year that rifle was manufactured. Other than that, it can be a bit tricky. I've read online a couple people reckon that the earlier ones have slightly different push buttons, but I haven't found anything to back that up, and I haven't seen any examples that indicate that that's the case. Again, if you know better, please let me know in the comments below or send me a message. Now, service life. So these were used obviously from 1891 when they replaced the Vetterli all the way through to the end of World War II. And after World War II, the Italians started replacing their Carcanos with short magazine Lienfelds, or number 1 Mark III rifles, or even number 4 rifles. I'm not sure which. I shouldn't commit to that. And they only used these for a couple of years before they replaced them with US M1 Garands in 1952, I think it is. So these were used from the end of the 19th century all the way to the end of World War II, which is quite a decent service life, really. It's one of the longer service lives for a bayonet. Now, all up, I think there were between 2 and 3 million of these made. From what I've been able to read, there's between 2 and 3 million Carcano rifles made. However, not all Carcano rifles take this bayonet, as I've stated at the start of the video. So I think it's very likely that you're looking at closer to 2 million of these are made, or even less. Now, in terms of conflict used, these have been used, oh god, everywhere. Used in World War I, World War II. They were used in the Spanish Civil War. They were used in Ethiopia. Anywhere that the Italians fought. Anywhere that the Italians had colonies or colonial disputes. Some of these were actually, along with the rifles, obviously, a fair number of them were made for the Japs, and they used those during World War II. Or just before World War II. I believe Germany used them as well. After the war, a lot of them were sold in surplus to various countries, and Carcano rifles, they're still used in various conflicts today by guerrilla forces and rebels and places in the Middle East where they don't have access to anything better than a bolt-action rifle. Don't get me wrong, I highly doubt they're still fixing bayonets in 2021. But the Carcano rifles are definitely still being used. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. If you've got more information, again, as I'd love to reiterate, just let me know, and I'll update the description. Thanks for watching.